This is Plant-Based Briefing, My Aging Parents' Shocking Health Improvements Through Food by Sandra L. Price at the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies at nutritionstudies.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And today's is another talking about health improvements through food, including atrial fibrillation or afib, something my brother has recently been diagnosed with, which caused him to have a stroke last week. He's still in recovery, but learning that he had afib was news to all of us, and it sent me on a journey learning more about it. This is a success story like yesterday's was, but one of the episodes providing a bit more information on afib specifically was 838, the best diet for treating atrial fibrillation. So check that out if you're interested, and now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. My Aging Parents' Shocking Health Improvements Through Food by Sandra L. Price at nutritionstudies.org. I had already been a whole food plant-based eater for a number of years when I completed the eCornell Plant-Based Nutrition Certificate Program. I'm 60 years old, athletic, and feel great, so my story is not particularly interesting. However, both my 83 and 84-year-old parents had their health transformed by adopting a whole food plant-based diet. They moved into my home recently, and I do all the cooking. We got their last set of blood labs after they moved in, and the improvement is nothing short of a miracle. Their cardiologist has taken them both off all medications, with the exception of one each, and that may soon be eliminated too. Here are the details. My father had a myocardial infarction, MI, 3.5 years ago, with a stent placement. He was placed on 4 to 5 different medications. He was 81 at the time. He had been a former marathon runner and long-distance cyclist until his early 70s. He had no history of high blood pressure. His cholesterol fluctuated around 200 to 260, but he was never placed on a statin. 14 months after the MI, he had another occlusion of the stent and had stent replacement. He was not at all overweight. His diet would be considered good by many uninformed people: moderate beef and poultry a few times a week, skim milk, butter on toast but not on the veggies, whole wheat breads, a salad every night, olive oil in cooking, fresh vegetables and fruits. But he also ate grilled cheese sandwiches and ice cream. I added the last 2 items because he loved those foods. He had ice cream almost every night. He made sure my mother bought ice milk ice cream, thinking this would be more healthy. In addition to his cardiovascular or CV issues, he had a lengthy history of depression treated with various antidepressants with varied success. His depression after the 2 CV events was noticeably worse, and his antidepressant was not helping. My mother was diagnosed at the age of 82 with atrial fibrillation. She was hospitalized and placed on 3 to 4 medications. She also appeared to have early symptoms of dementia. The doctor said the AFib may have caused small cerebral strokes. She also had a history of irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, and high blood pressure. Her BMI was 36.2 and she was overweight, even though she had tried many diets over her lifetime. A year later, it became apparent my parents could no longer live without meal assistance. They were relying more and more on convenience and fast foods, common among the elderly, and I felt this was contributing to their continuing decline. I had them move into my home, and they immediately started eating a whole food plant-based diet. Within 2 days, my mother's IBS symptoms were gone. No stomach aches or diarrhea. Within a week, my father's digestive issues with constipation were gone. They had their blood work done a few months later. Their cardiologist was surprised with the results. He previously had told me he thought the whole food diet was too extreme. I replied, in my world, trying to keep track of 10 medications twice a day for 2 elderly parents is extreme. My father's total cholesterol went from 260 to 132. My mother's went from 220 to 175. Their blood pressures are normal, if not low. They both have been taken off all medications with the exception of 1 medication each. My mother lost 21 pounds in 3.5 months. My father lost 8 pounds, mainly from around his stomach. And if that weren't enough, we were amazed that my father's depression improved markedly without any antidepressant, and my mother no longer needs thyroid medication. All of this was accomplished with real whole foods, not pharmaceuticals. Many thanks to Dr. Campbell for his groundbreaking research and his amazing book, The China Study. I read it, and it changed my entire understanding of health and nutrition. In addition, Forks Over Knives was a great documentary to get the word out to the masses. I had my parents watch it twice so they could understand my rationale for changing their diet. You just listened to My Aging Parents' Shocking Health Improvements Through Food by Sandra L. Price at nutritionstudies.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. I got chills reading the last paragraph where the author was thanking Dr. Campbell for his book, The China Study, and her parents watched Forks Over Knives twice. It's such a beautiful story, but I know how difficult it is for those of us who can't get our loved ones to even pay attention to this stuff. All we can do is keep trying and sharing the information with people who might be receptive, if not today, then maybe at some point. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.